What is an emergency power? Ashley, I'm going to come to you first. How is it different from all the other powers that a president has? How does it stand apart? What's different?
So I tend to think of emergency power as a description of a kind of power that gets used in specific circumstances. It often refers to power used by the president, but I don't think that necessarily has to be the case in our system of government. Congress actually has emergency powers, for example, to suspend habeas corpus. The states themselves have a certain emergency power. They can engage in war when they're actually invaded. There is no provision in the Constitution that specifically gives any of the branches an emergency power as such, and there's therefore no fixed definition of what counts as an emergency power. There are clearly statutes that use that phrase. We can talk about how those get triggered, but there is no sort of fixed definition of emergency power. I think the general idea is that this is a power that an actor needs to use quickly, needs to use in the face of an imminent threat. But it is different from an executive order, for example, in that presidents use executive orders for all sorts of things. One of the things they use them for is sometimes to declare emergencies, but that's a foreign question.
I think it's important to clarify that emergency powers are different. Anybody want to add anything to how an emergency power is different from anything else? Phil?
A classic way of describing an emergency power is it's the time in which you are in a state of exception. A state of exception to the ordinary way power is wielded that's caused by some extraordinary crisis. And in a way, it's useful to kind of remember that classical definition, because the issue today is whether or not the United States is drifting towards being in a permanent state of exception.